There, it's Lara here. It's Wednesday, August 12th, and I'm here to talk to you about the weekly astrology. So, welcome. Thanks for being here. I wasn't sure if I was going to be here this week or not, and in what capacity. Um, you know, we're in a mutable time this year with the North Node in Gemini over the next 18 months or so. And so, and the South Node in Sagittarius, so we're kind of going with the flow. And that's the way it's been. So today is actually my 25th wedding anniversary. And so I have some plans later with my husband, but we are here. And, so I thought while I could, I would pop in and do this video for you. So it may be a little bit shorter than usual, just because I have other things going on. And, I hope that's cool with you, but I wanted to come and check in because it's been a little bit, I think. I don't think I did a regular video last week, maybe the week before. It's just been a little bit all over the map. And it may, truth be told, it may continue that way for a while. Or come up with some kind of a new schedule, because we're in this time where all of us are required to really be flexible and adaptable, right? As I mentioned, North Node in Gemini. And around here, that means we've got a couple of kids who are supposed to be starting school in September, and we've been given a choice. We just found out yesterday from our school board about what to do about that in terms of, whether kids will be heading back into class, or, if we're going to do an online learning option, which has been our choice. That's the choice that we've made. And so kids will be around, and it's going to be challenging because the last few months of last school year, they were doing the online thing, but it was a bit willy-nilly. It wasn't as structured, and now it's going to be structured. So it's going to be a lot more intense, which will require our household to be a little bit more adaptable. And my husband and I both work from home, so it should be interesting. Anyway, bear with me. Bear with me. Stay tuned. But that's the way it's got to be. And we're all making difficult choices right now. We're all having to adapt and adjust. And we all have to realize that there is nothing about the situation that we're in that is quote unquote normal, right? And it's not likely to be for a while. And the sooner we all get used to that, the better off we're going to be. So, but right now we're in Leo season still, which is a pretty enjoyable time, all things considered. 2020 in itself doesn't have a lot of that. And we're in a time period right now where we do have a little bit of opportunity for finding the joy a bit. And this new moon in Leo is going to amplify that. And, what I really want to say to you about this before I dive into the details, and just so you know, I literally have like a few notes jotted down here, it's very off the cuff, this video. But what I really want to let you know is that I have to be honest with you. I'm always honest with you. The last part of 2020 is not going to be a cakewalk. Not like the rest of 2020 has been a cakewalk, right? But just understand that the intensity is not over, and it's likely to amp up further. So forewarned is forearmed, right? And I don't say that to scare anybody. I'm just telling you that it's always better to be prepared as we can be. Who knew this was going to happen, right? Who knew coronavirus was going to hit? Really, we knew as astrologers, as I've said before, that there was going to be some big stuff happening this year, and that it was going to be a challenging year. and a real time of upheaval and transformation, and that kind of thing, right? But we didn't know the specifics. So here we are, and it's not over yet. So my point is here, seize the joy while you can, right? Carpe diem, as they say, because it's kind of like we need to kind of give ourselves that so that we can sort of, armor up for what's to come, sort of thing. Okay, so we've got right now the moon in Cancer. No, not in Cancer. The moon is in Gemini. Sorry. She's moved into Gemini today from Taurus. And so chatty, right? Gemini likes to do a lot of talking, a lot of information gathering and exchange, likes the options, is very curious, very social. And there can be a lot of thinking and talking and messages exchanged going on over the next couple of days. And then on Friday, she moves into Cancer, where, over the weekend might be a time of a little bit more denning in or enjoying your bubble, your tribe. Cancer is a fan of the domestic bliss sort of thing and emotional protection. So we're going to have that going on. And then on Monday, the moon will move into Leo, where we will have that new moon happening on Tuesday, sort of Tuesday, Wednesday, depending where you live in the world. So the new moon in Leo, August 18th, 10:41 p.m. That's Eastern time. So you can adjust accordingly for wherever you live, for what your time zone is. It may be on the 18th in the evening or in the wee hours of the morning on the 19th, depending where you live. But for me here, it's 10:41 p.m. Eastern. And this new moon is at 26 degrees of Leo. Leo is a fixed fire sign. So when you think of fixed fire, I think of this idea of sort of like a sustained burn, right? If you're having a campfire, say, we were just at camp, finally had a chance to have a couple of campfires, and it's like, this nice, bright orange kind of burn where you just keep feeding a log on the fire, and it's this sustained burn, right? Because fixed energy is energy that's sustainable. It doesn't really like change. It resists change to a degree, but it has staying power. And when we combine that with fire, Leo's a fire sign. I think of it as this kind of, slow burn, sustained burn. So that's the energy. And we've got a few things going on in relation to the new moon. We've got the new moon trining Mars. First of all, let me just circle back to say a new moon is always when the sun and the moon come together, right? That divine masculine energy of the sun and the divine feminine energy of the moon, they meet up in the sky. They come together to birth something new. And so we have a new beginning of sorts. We have planting the seeds, of some new kind of idea, project, event, something new begins around the time of a new moon. And whatever that is tends to relate to the house that the new moon is falling in for us, right? And it can be like the best way to work with new moon energy is to have an intention to start something and to do it, whatever that is intentionally. So it's a time to plant seeds of intention that we will see grow as the moon starts to wax towards the full moon. And then at the full moon, in a couple of weeks from now, we see, the blossoming of that. Things come to fruition. We reach a culmination point of sorts in the short term. But then over the longer haul, this can continue on for the next 6 months, when we will have the next full moon in Leo, and then there is an even sort of fuller kind of blossoming, right? That happens. So keep that in mind. So I was saying to you, I'm going to show you the chart right now, I think, quick, and then I'll go into the different aspects that are happening. So here we are with the new moon chart, right? So this is for August 18th. And which is when the new moon is happening, as I said, 10:41 p.m. Eastern time. So here we've got, let me orient myself, the sun and the moon, sun and the moon together in Leo at 26 degrees, right? A fixed fire sign, Leo. And right next to them, right next to the sun there, is Mercury at 28 degrees, just a couple of degrees away. The sun and Mercury just had an exact conjunction. So that's going on. And then we've got Mars here in Aries, which is, one of the headlines for the remainder of 2020. Really important to pay attention to what Mars is doing. And I've done a video on this, right? So, because Mars is there for the remainder of the year and will station retrograde between September and November. But at this new moon, Mars is trining, right? The moon, the sun, and Mercury to a degree as well. And then we've also got a conversation between the new moon and the nodes, right? So we've got a sextile here to the north node in Gemini and a trine to the south node in Sagittarius. We also have to, we can't lose sight of what's still going on in Capricorn, Saturn, Pluto, Jupiter. Mars, one of the reasons for the intensity for the remainder of the year here is because Mars will back and forth, on and off rather, be squaring these energies, right? And it's like Clash of the Titans in a sense, but a square can also be quite dynamic. I'll talk a little bit more about that when I take the paper away from my face. What else do I want to tell you though before I do that? Oh, yes. So this new moon is also in a conversation that we call a quincunx or an inconjunct between exactly with Saturn, but also to a degree with Pluto. So I'll talk about that a little bit more as well. So there we have what's going on with the chart. Obviously, some other things there. Venus is in Cancer now. Mercury is in Leo. We're on the precipice of Virgo season, but we'll talk about that next week. And so let's break this down a little bit in terms of those specific aspects that I talked about. So the new moon is in trine with Mars. This is helpful because a trine is a conversation of ease and flow. So this can make for whatever new beginning that we are initiating or is being initiated around now, around the time of the new moon, can feel like it, we've got some support for that. It's a little bit easier. Now, sometimes with a trine, the only thing is that we can sort of miss out because things are just like, it just seems like this is too easy. So why bother? That can happen. But in general, it's really positive energy, right? And so it's a good time to harness the energy of Mars, that really active kind of go-get-em energy of assertiveness and drive and will and all of that. It's a good time to harness that in a positive way. And then we've got the new moon conjuncting Mercury, right beside. The sun and the moon are right beside Mercury in the sky. And so that amplifies this energy of talking and thinking. And it can be fiery. Our communications can be fiery, right? Mercury, communications and thinking. and in a fire sign in Leo with the sun and the moon. So there can be some fiery communications. But it can also, give us an opportunity to really speak our mind and really shine our light. Very much Leo, really speak from the heart and be passionate about it. And I'll talk a little bit more about the themes around this new moon in a second here. But that's the Mercury piece. Then we also have another positive conversation between the new moon, right? It's in a sextile to the north node, like I said, and a trine to the south node. So again, trine is this easy flowing energy, right? And a sextile tends to bring opportunities that we need to seize and to act on in order for us to reap the rewards. Let's put it that way. So the nodes are all about, the transiting nodes are about our collective destiny, right? So where are we headed? North node Gemini. So, this new moon, this new beginning can work well with the nodal axis in terms of what we're trying to kind of release, let go of, step away from, and what we are trying to embrace, which is North Node in Gemini, right? Our curiosity, our willingness to consider different options and to try different things on for size, to entertain different perspectives, different communications, messages exchanged, the taking in and disseminating of information, this sort of thing. The other thing that's happening, though, is there's what we call a quincunx to Saturn, and to Pluto to a degree, but it's exact to Saturn at 26 degrees. So this is this aspect where the two parties involved, the moon, the sun, there's more than two parties in this case, the sun and the moon and Saturn and Pluto to a degree, right? They don't really have anything in common. So Saturn is sitting in Capricorn, a cardinal earth sign. This new moon is happening in Leo, a fixed fire sign. Those two energies don't really see eye to eye. So it's hard for them to get on the same page. So lots of adjustments are needed. And so this tells me that at the time of the new moon, whatever it is that in general can, it can have this sort of positive, exuberant feeling about it, in a sense. We can also have to make a lot of adjustments and a lot of little, tweaks and perhaps changes of, mind or direction or, the tweaks can involve practical things, Capricorn things, about that have to do with our responsibilities and, the structures and our sense of mastery is very much Capricorn, but also, our worldly ambitions and that sort of thing. So I'll just give you a personal example. I already mentioned to you the whole back to school thing, and my husband and I both work from home. And so, this makes it difficult. It's like everybody has their own challenges, right? If you're a parent that works out of the house and both of you work out of the house, and that can be incredibly challenging because, how do you do the online learning thing, particularly if your kids are younger? Adjustments have to be made in your work life, Capricorn. And for us, it makes it hard when all four of us are home, to be productive, to not have your attention split. And, so there's some practical considerations that we all have to make. And that can look like maybe putting our own ambitions on the back burner for a little, or lowering our expectations there for a little while, or really having to be responsible and instill that sense of responsibility in our kids, right? Since they won't be in the actual classroom for the next while. Also, material security is a consideration, right? The money we make, like when you're not as productive, you don't make as much money, and that impacts your life, right? In a practical fashion. It can also be, again, about maybe, some adjustments in your work schedule, those kinds of things. So all of those things can factor in. But I want to talk, before I go through each of the signs, a little bit about the energy of Leo in general, which maybe I should have started with, but I didn't. So here we are. So again, Leo is a fixed fire sign. I see it as this kind of sustained burn, right? Leo is very much about our inner child. It is what brings us joy and how we sort of share that joy, our childlike exuberance, if you will. It's about how we shine our individual light out into the world, right? Here's me on the stage. Here's how I'm unique. Here's what I have to offer. And it's about what makes us special and what we can contribute as an individual. So these themes are highlighted for us. And Leo is also very much about loyalty and generosity. It's a heart-centered energy, right? And with Mercury there, like I said, speaking from the heart can be something that's on the menu for us, as well as our creativity. Leo is a very creative sign. And what we are kind of, proud of as well. One of the things that I do want to mention, because I think this is a bigger theme over the course of 2020 for all of us in different ways, but it has very much to do, Leo energy in particular, with leadership, but ideally not in the sense of, me telling you what to do or you telling me what to do. That's not leadership. I'm talking about the leadership that comes from within, leading our own lives, being the leaders of our own lives, self-sovereignty. That's what I'm talking about. Making our own choices based on what our heart wants and what our heart is telling us the right thing to do is, regardless, right, of what everybody else is doing, regardless of what society tells us we should be doing. It's about what our unique self really has to contribute, and really, how we lead our own lives in our own unique way. So very much about that as well. Now, I always talk about the shadow side of energies, because otherwise it's just a one-sided perspective, and that doesn't serve anyone. So the shadow side of Leo energy can be about thinking that I'm the center of the universe, and what I, say or do, or my needs, or my contribution, or whatever, is the most important. It's more important than everybody else's. I'm the most important. Or my little, family or bubble or whatever is the most important. So it can look like that. It can be, in terms of emotional reaction, it can be a bit childish, where if you're not paying attention to me and my needs are not getting met, then I'm going to have a little temper tantrum over here, because, like a little kid stomping their feet and crossing their arms, because you're not, paying attention to me. You're not seeing my specialness. You're not giving me as much as I'm giving you, that kind of thing, right? So that can happen as well. And there can just be this real need for validation with Leo energy, for external validation, and just a real, sense of self-centeredness and melodrama sometimes. So that's the shadow side, right, of Leo. Ideally, not where we want to go with this energy. What we really want to harness is this opportunity to start something new at this time, new moon, in whatever area of the chart that the moon is falling for us, which I'm getting to in a second, and how we can bring our own unique perspective, our own unique, heart-centered contribution, and how that can be a sustained burn, if that makes sense. All right, so that's the new moon essentially, and I'm going to go through the signs now and just give you a little tidbit about what house this new moon is happening in for you. And so and I'll give you the themes, right, that speak to that house, and then you can think about in your own life, how does that apply? How can I make a sort of a fresh start? How can I plant some new seeds of intention? What feels like it wants to be renewed in this area of life? That kind of thing. And keeping in mind that when I do these general forecasts, we're talking first and foremost to rising sign, right? Whatever your rising sign is. And if you don't know that, that's okay. You can also listen to your sun sign and your moon sign. And if you listen to all three of those, it will give you sort of a fuller picture. And if you don't know your chart, I'm here doing readings. So you know how to reach me at my website. The link is below. Please feel free to reach out. And I want to reiterate before I do this, really keep in mind that the backdrop for the remainder here of 2020 is going to be that continued presence of Saturn and Pluto and Jupiter in Capricorn. Saturn and Jupiter will, at the end of the year, move into Aquarius, but still in Capricorn, and Mars in Aries, right, which is making a square to Capricorn, and there for the long haul. So okay, let's go through the signs. So we're going to start with Leo. Leo, for you, this is your new moon. So it's a big new beginning for Leo, particularly Leo rising, in some way, shape, or form, and in a big way, because the first house where the new moon is falling for you is about you, right? It's about I, me, mine. It's about my trajectory through life. It is about your physical body, your physical vitality, your physical appearance. It's about how the world perceives you and how you put yourself out there, how you approach the world, right? These kinds of things. So when we have a new moon in the first house, it tends to be a big deal. This is really kind of a new moon that can have a big impact over the course of the year for you. So you may be, let me just give you some. You may be launching something new that shows the world a different side of you, or a new side of you, or a new project. You may be putting that out there to the world. You may be, starting some new kind of physical routine, exercise routine or something like that, that has an impact on your vitality in a positive way. You may be thinking about changing your appearance. Something may transpire that has you approaching the world in a different way, or the world perceiving you in a different way. So that's going on. That's what's going on for you for the new moon, Leo. And then we're going to move on to Cancer, where we've got the new moon happening in your second house. So for you, this is a new start. This is planting seeds of intention, a renewal of sorts in relation to your personal resources. Second house, your time, your money, your energy, right? So, and it has to do potentially with even material possessions. It has to do with how you get your basic needs met. Sometimes this even speaks to like food and how we nurture like our bodies with food, the literal food we put into our bodies. It can have to do with what you value, your values, what you really think and feel are important. And what you place worth on, including your own sense of self-worth, is very much second house. So this opportunity for renewal, for a fresh start. And it's happening in this, leonine sense where it's your uniqueness shining out into the world, speaking from the heart, really seizing the joy and that kind of thing. So definitely listen to the intro, right? Because I spoke more about all of these things. So that's for you, Cancer. Next, we've got Gemini, where Gemini, the new moon is happening for you in your third house, which is where, it's your home house. So this is somewhat familiar energy to you, Gemini. And this is about some fresh start, some new beginning, planting new seeds of intention, some sense of renewal in relation to your immediate environment, third house, which is, sorry, I have a hair tickling my nose, which is, the people in your immediate environment. So it's like your community and the people in it, your siblings, your cousins, your neighbors, your teammates, your peers, this kind of thing. And it's very much about also your communications, right? So your communication style, it's about your thinking and the messages exchanged. The third house speaks to issues around commerce and marketing, mobility, even short trips, like short commutes, that kind of thing. So all of these things can factor in to this new moon. And, whatever new thing is being initiated around now is really unique to you, right, Leo? So definitely listen to the intro for the other pieces of the puzzle. Next, we're moving on to Taurus. Taurus, you have the new moon happening in your fourth house. So for you, this is a fresh start, a new beginning, planting seeds of intention, some sense of renewal happening in relation to your home. So your literal home, your place of living. It can be homeland. It can be family, roots, ancestry, lineage, your sense of emotional security. And this can involve real estate even. So, maybe you're moving to a new place or considering that around this time. It's also speaks to the nurturing, sort of more feminine energies in your life, right? Oftentimes people think of fourth house as related to the mother, but it doesn't necessarily have to be. I think of it as the more kind of nurturing, often female figures, but not always in your life. So that's for you, Taurus. The next we have Aries, and for you, this new moon is happening in the fifth house. So for you, Aries, the fresh start, the seeds of intention are being planted in this area of life that has to do with your own personal creativity. The fifth house is home to Leo, right? So it shares some of those themes. So your creative contribution to the world, creative projects, children in any way, shape, or form. very much about what sparks joy for you, right? How do you have fun in life? What brings you pleasure? These sorts of things. So there's some opportunity here for something new to transpire, or at least be initiated around the time of this new moon. That's for you. Next, we're moving on to Pisces. Pisces, for you, the new moon's happening in your 6th house. So this is about some kind of new daily routine, potentially, right? 6th house is about our daily routine. It's about our health and wellness routines and issues around health and wellness and illness. It's how we are in service on the day-to-day, whether that be paid or unpaid. So sometimes it involves our work that we are paid for. Sometimes it involves our work at home, and those things that we do, those routines and things that we do just because, we have to do them, or we are being in service to others. The 6th house can also have to do with pets and any sort of relationship between people who are not on an equal playing field. So, and it's about the sort of the practical matters in life, right? It's about the order. It's the house of Virgo. And so it's all about checking off the ticky boxes in a sense. So here we are, 6th house new moon for you, Pisces. And those are the themes that are highlighted for you around the time of the new moon. There's an opportunity here to start something new, to plant some new seeds of intention in relation to those things. Next, we've got Aquarius. Aquarius, for you, the new moon's happening in your 7th house. So this is a fresh start, new seeds of intention, a renewal in relation to your relationships, to your close personal relationships, one-to-one relationships, is the 7th house. So significant others, it can be business partners, close friends and family members. It can even be rivals in the 7th house. 7th house also has to do with any kind of contractual obligations and contractual agreements, this kind of things. So there can be some new contract, on offer or signed around now. A new relationship starts, or a renewal of a relationship. Some kind of seeds planted there in relation to your 7th house and your one-to-one relationships. So that's for you, Aquarius. Next, we've got Capricorn. Capricorn, for you, this fresh start, this sense of renewal, happens in your 8th house, right? The Leo new moon is happening in your 8th house. And so the 8th house is all about other people's resources rather than our own resources. And what I mean by that is other people's time, money, and energy. And in a practical sense, that often relates to things like, taxes, insurance, debt, wills, bursaries, loans, all of that, mortgages, all of that kind of thing. But it's also very much about how we are sort of intimately entangled with other people, right? So our intimate connections with others, and this whole sense of renewal and, the cycle of transformation, of death and rebirth, metaphorically, sometimes literally, but usually metaphorically. So that's what's going on. That's where this fresh start is on offer for you, Capricorn. And it's really about your own unique approach to that, right? Being in Leo. So listen to the introduction for the details. Next, we've got Sagittarius. For you, Sagittarius, the new moon is happening in your 9th house. And this is where Sagittarius is at home, in the 9th house. So for you, the fresh start has to do with things like your philosophy, your belief system, the quest for knowledge, your worldview, what you learn from foreign people and places and how that shapes your worldview, people that are different from you. Oftentimes this has to do with foreign travel. It can even have to do with armchair travel, right? Learning things about other cultures through watching documentaries and reading books and things like that, or for different belief systems, that sort of thing. it can have to do with things regarding teaching and learning. And usually that has to do with teaching and learning beyond the basics. So there may be something transpiring, for you in that regard, where you can be starting some new course of study, for example, or a new way of doing that. So that's what's going on for you, Sagittarius. Next, we have Scorpio. Scorpio, the new moon is happening in your 10th house. So this is a very public house, right? This is an opportunity for a fresh start, to plant some new seeds, for a renewal in relation to your public life, your public persona, public reputation, your worldly ambitions, the legacy you wish to leave, your relationship to authority and authority figures, including your own authority. Those are all 10th house themes, very much about career. If I didn't say that yet. And so there is some kind of fresh start on offer, or some kind of new seeds of intention that you're planting or are being planted in relation to you and in relation to these 10th house themes, right? Over the course of this new moon. And then you will watch them grow, and you will ideally nurture them over not only the next 2 weeks till the next full moon, but over the next 6 months, where we'll have the full moon in Leo, and then we can really see what blossoms from here. Okay, next we have Libra. So Libra, the full moon, the new moon rather, for you is happening in the 11th house. And for you, this has to do with friendship groups. It has to do with the collective in general, right? So that can be friendships, it can be organizations, clubs, associations, parties, affiliations, this kind of thing, right? And it also is very much about the people that are walking the same sort of path as you, and the people that can help you get where you want to go, the people that can help you make gains. It's about your hopes and dreams for the future. So there's some fresh start on offer here, some renewal, some new seeds of intention being planted in relation to these 11th house themes in a very Leo sense, right? Your own unique kind of contribution in that way. So that's what's going on for you, Libra. And then last but not least, in this case, we've got Virgo. So Virgo, for you, this new moon in Leo is in your 12th house. So this is about a renewal, a fresh start, new seeds of intention being planted in this sort of unique way, right? Your own unique contribution, very Leo, in relation to how you renew yourself. So that's like the 12th house is very much about how we spend time in solitude and recuperation and recovery and rest and all of that. Sleep even, right? Because this can relate to our dreams. It's 12th house is about the unseen things. So, our connection with spirit, our spiritual and mental health and wellness. It's about the subconscious and what's going on in there that we may not be aware of. It's about how we may sabotage ourselves, right? And it can also be about places that we consider sort of tucked away from the world, right? So things like hospitals and hospices and spiritual retreat centers and rehabilitation facilities. It can have to do with what are some other examples? Youth detention facilities. In this case, it could potentially even have to do with schools, which wouldn't necessarily be the norm, except for the fact that, it's a different situation we're in, and there's not going to be a lot of access for people going in and out of schools, and not a lot of mobility going on in the schools for the most part, where I live anyway. There'd be restrictions and social distancing and all of that going on, right? Mask wearing, all of this kind of thing. So it potentially could even have to do with issues around that. So that about covers it, I think. So that is the new moon through all 12 signs. And I gave you some lead up to that and, the different sort of planetary conversations that are happening in relation to the full moon and the other things to take note of, that Mars in Aries square, the energy in Capricorn going on. And we will talk more about that in the weeks and months to come. So take good care. Thanks for joining me here. I will probably see you next week, although I just, like, these days, I'm not making any promises.